All right, so are you ready to dive into something that we all experience like literally every day?
I think I know where you're going with this.
You got it, talking about the weather.
Okay, yeah.
We're taking a deep dive into this, and you sent over this really cool episode of SmartPodcast talking about the weather in English, which is actually designed for English language learners. But I think there's a lot here for anyone who wants to kind of, master the art of just casual conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially small talk.
Yeah.
So our hosts for this source material are Patrick and Harry.
Okay.
And they kind of start out with this mock weather forecast for Salt Lake City, Utah.
Interesting.
Sort of like a day in the life weather report.
Okay, got it.
And right away, they point out this sharp contrast between the north and the south.
Oh, really? So they're setting up the state as like microcosms of different weather.
Yeah. And you know what? I was thinking about that while I was listening to it.
Yeah.
That contrast is key, because if everything was the same, like what's the point of talking about it?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be dynamic.
So up north, they're calling for heavy cloud cover.
Okay.
Those classic scattered showers.
Yeah.
And a high of 45 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, so a little chilly, a little damp.
But down south, different story.
Okay.
A cold front's moving in, so while they might have clear skies, it's going to be hovering around 30 degrees. Brrr. Now that cold front detail, that's not just weather.
Okay.
It's almost like foreshadowing for a conversation.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like things are about to change.
So it adds this like layer of anticipation.
Right.
And a little bit of drama.
And the story continues into the next day's forecast.
Okay.
Northern Utah gets hit with isolated downpours.
Oh, wow.
We're talking winds from the northeast at 23 miles per hour.
Okay.
But here's the kicker, that rain is expected to turn into sleet by the evening.
Oh, no, that's no fun.
Sleet. The word alone just makes you want to stay inside. Oh, absolutely. Sleet has like a negative connotation.
Yeah.
It's almost like nature can't decide what it wants to do.
Right.
And it just ends up dumping this messy mix on us.
And meanwhile, down in southern Utah, partly cloudy skies, maybe a few showers.
Okay.
And a slightly warmer high of 38 degrees.
Okay.
Definitely lucked out this time.
Right.
Now, before we go any further, let's break down some of the key terms that Patrick and Harry use.
Okay.
Not just their definitions, but how they actually function in a conversation.
Right.
Because knowing what sleet means is one thing.
Sure.
But using it skillfully to like complain about the weather is a whole other level.
It's like having the ingredients to make a cake.
Right.
Versus knowing how to actually bake the cake.
So they start out with forecast, which seems basic.
Right.
But think about it.
Yeah.
It's not just about the weather, is it?
No, it's not.
We're always forecasting in life.
Yeah.
We're trying to predict what will happen next.
Planning ahead, right?
It speaks to our human desire to feel prepared, to have some sense of control.
I think so, yeah.
Over the unknown.
Absolutely.
And then we have shower.
Okay.
I think this one is interesting because it can sound deceivingly pleasant. We all love a nice warm shower, right?
Right, yeah.
But a rain shower, not always so delightful.
Yeah, especially if you're caught without an umbrella.
Especially if you forgot your umbrella.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the distinction between like shower and then scattered showers comes in.
Right.
Because scattered showers imply this level of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a game of chance with the rain clouds.
Oh, I like that.
Adds a bit of suspense to the forecast, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Makes you wonder if you'll be one of the lucky ones to dodge the drops.
Totally.
And speaking of drops, they also mention isolated downpours, which sounds way more dramatic than a simple shower.
Much more.
It evokes images of sudden heavy rainfall.
Right.
Almost like a localized cloudburst. You can practically hear the thunder and see flashes of lightning.
Yeah, definitely. They actually use this great analogy to explain scattered showers.
Right.
They compare it to kids playing in a playground. Some are on the swings, some are in the sandbox. It's not a uniform scene.
Yeah.
Scattered showers are like that happening in some spots, but not others.
Makes it a bit easier to visualize, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It grounds the concept in like a familiar experience.
Yeah.
And it highlights that even within a small area, weather can be incredibly diverse.
Right, like your backyard could be getting soaked.
Yeah.
And your front yard could be completely dry.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
That's so wild.
It's funny how we like take talking about the weather for granted.
Yeah.
But Patrick and Harry really make you think about how important it is as a social tool,
Right.
particularly in English-speaking cultures.
It's almost like a social lubricant, right?
Yeah,
It helps conversations flow smoothly.
exactly. Think about how many times have you been in an awkward situation?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe standing next to a stranger at a bus stop,
Right.
and suddenly like, wow, this weather is crazy, huh? Becomes your lifeline.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like a universal conversation starter.
Right.
It breaks the ice, fills those uncomfortable silences,
Okay.
establishes a sense of camaraderie, even if it's just for a fleeting moment.
It's true. I used to just be like, nice weather, huh?
Yeah.
But that never really led anywhere.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, maybe I should have been more specific.
Yeah.
Like, this sunshine is a welcome change after all that rain, don't you think?
Yeah, like something that invites the other person to agree,
Yeah.
to share their own perspective.
Right.
It turns a one-sided statement into like a mini dialogue.
Yeah.
A chance for connection.
Patrick and Harry actually highlight the phrase cold out today, isn't it?
Okay.
As a classic example.
Right.
It's simple, it's relatable, and most importantly, it's a question. You're not just stating a fact. You're inviting a response.
And that invitation is key, especially in cultures where like being too direct can be perceived as rude.
Right.
It's like a gentle way to gauge the other person's willingness to engage.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
It's like a little social dance.
Yeah.
Taking small steps to see if the other person wants to dance too.
Totally. And even if the conversation ends there, you've still acknowledged their presence.
Right.
Shared a moment.
Right.
It's a subtle but powerful way to navigate those initial social interactions.
But what's really fascinating is how talking to the weather goes beyond just starting a conversation.
Yeah.
It can actually reveal a lot about cultural values and perspectives.
It's true.
The way we talk about the weather often reflects our deeper attitudes.
Yeah.
Or nature time.
Right.
Even social hierarchy.
Absolutely.
I remember reading somewhere that in some cultures, complaining about the weather is almost taboo. Like you're questioning a higher power or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It can be seen as disrespectful or ungrateful.
Right.
But in other cultures, like in England,
Yeah.
complaining about the weather is practically a national sport,
Totally.
you know?
Yeah, it's a way to bond over shared misery,
Right.
find humor in the face of dreary skies.
It's a great example of how cultural norms influence our language
Yeah,
and shape our conversations.
for sure.
Something as simple as a comment about the rain can reveal a whole world
Right.
of unspoken rules and understandings.
It really can.
You know, it makes me think about all the times I've traveled
Yeah.
and maybe misjudged a situation because I didn't understand the local weather etiquette.
Oh, yeah?
Like once I was in Italy
Uh-huh.
and kept complaining about the heat and people were looking at me like I was crazy.
Really?
Turns out it's just not done there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's a good reminder to be mindful of those cultural differences.
Right.
Especially as the world becomes more interconnected.
For sure, for sure.
What might be considered polite in one culture
Yeah.
could be completely inappropriate in another.
It's all about being observant,
Yeah.
learning the nuances and adapting our communication style accordingly.
Right?
Weather talk isn't just about the words.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the context, the unspoken rules of the game.
Right. So we've covered the basics of like weather vocabulary.
Right.
And we've explored how those terms like function as social cues.
Uh-huh.
But now let's get practical.
Okay.
How can we use this knowledge to actually like improve our conversations?
Well, I think of it like this weather talk is a gateway.
Okay.
It's not about getting stuck discussing barometric pressure or anything like that.
Right.
It's about using that initial connection
Yeah.
to open up to other topics.
Okay. So let's say I'm at a networking event, room full of people I don't know.
Yep.
How do I move past that initial, wow, crazy weather, huh?
Right?
And actually like make a memorable impression?
Specificity is key. So instead of just a generic comment, try something like, I'm glad they finally turned up the heat in here.
Uh-huh.
It felt like a blizzard out there.
Okay.
You're acknowledging the shared experience,
Right.
but you're adding a touch of humor.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's relatable, but it also shows you're paying attention.
exactly.
You're engaged with your surroundings.
And then once you've broken the ice, ask a follow-up question.
Okay.
Something like, are you from around here?
Uh-huh.
Have you always braved winters like this?
Okay.
You're inviting them to share their story.
That's a good point. It's not just about talking.
Right.
It's about listening, showing genuine interest.
Exactly.
So networking events, check.
Uh-huh.
What about more casual settings, like, say, meeting a new neighbor?
The same principles apply. Find a weather-related observation that's relevant to your shared environment.
Okay.
Maybe it's, those wind chimes are really going wild today. Have you ever had anything blow away in a storm? You're connecting over a hyper-local experience.
And from there, you could branch out, maybe talk about gardening,
Exactly.
local parks, whatever comes naturally.
Right. It's all about those organic transitions.
Yeah.
And as you get more comfortable, you can even use weather talk to like showcase your personality a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm known for being a bit over the top, I could say something like, this humidity is brutal. I swear my hair is doubled in size.
Exactly. Or if you're more the dry, sarcastic type,
Right.
you could go with, well, at least the rain is washing away all the pollen. Got to find a silver lining, right?
Right.
You know?
It's about finding your own voice.
Yeah.
Using those weather-related phrases
Exactly.
as like a springboard for genuine connection.
And that's what this all boils down to, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've unpacked vocabulary,
Right.
cultural nuances,
Yeah.
even conversational strategies.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's about using this seemingly simple topic to build bridges between people.
To find that common ground, to spark a laugh, to make someone feel seen and heard.
Exactly.
Who knew the weather could be so powerful?
It really is proof that even the most mundane things can be extraordinary if we pay attention.
If we use them thoughtfully.
Exactly.
That's a great takeaway.
So next time you step outside, don't just feel the weather. Think about it.
Right.
Think about the conversations it might spark, the connections it might bring.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the surprising world of talking about the weather.
Yeah, this was fun.
We hope you've learned a few new tricks and that you'll approach your next conversation with a fresh perspective.